Hey, everybody. Almost didn't make it. Yep, I scheduled this and almost went because this stuff just coming at me. Ding, 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 ding. Message. My God. Get a little critical thinking behind some of these messages. There'd be a little bit less of them. I got backup. I got to back up on this word liberty. Because I come across a little bit of reading. And I started reading. Because I don't like reading, I figured I'll just read this for the first time with y'all. Because I skimmed through it to the point that I said, I like some of the stuff he's saying in this article. And I figured, well, let's read it. And if there's stuff in there that I think is wrong, I'll call it out. If there's stuff in there that I think is right, then I think we'll talk about that or just let it sink in as it's read. So this a little bit longer than I want to deal with, but I love you, so I'm going to do it. You see, this is 12th of June, 2017. Can I blow this up? I can't. Posted by James Glenn. I wonder if there's an author at the bottom. Wow, is this a long article? About the author. James Galani is a member of Alabama State Bar. Well, I'm not going to hold that against him. I liked what I was reading. So, no wonder it's so long. It's a bar attorney. Because probably the points we want to make here could be done just a paragraph or two. So we'll see what we got here. Oh, look what I found behind my ear. That's nice. In 1775, Colonel William Moultrie was asked by the Revolutionary Council of Safety to design a flag for the Southern troops of the Continental Army to use during the American Revolutionary War. Moultrie's design had blue of the militia uniform and the crescent-shaped gorget, a piece of armor protecting the throat. It was first flown at Fort Jefferson. During the battle in June 28, 1776, the flag was shot down. But Sergeant William Jasper ran out into the open, raising it up and rallying the troops until it could be mounted again. This gesture was so heroic, saving Charleston, South Carolina, from conquest for 4 years, that the flag came to be the symbol of revolution and liberty of South Carolina and the South. And I start to talk about liberty now. Some popularly known as either the Liberty flag or Monterey flag, it became the standard of the Southern troops fighting against the British. Major General, we're still fighting the British. We didn't know it. They've been here terrorizing us. Where was I? Soon popularly known as either the Liberty flag or Monterey flag, it became the standard of the Southern troops fighting against the British. Major General Nathaniel Greene stated that the Liberty flag was the first to fly in the South to signify our freedom. The Liberty flag is a symbol of the South and not just South Carolina. According to Steve Flowers, Alabama historian and politician, most Alabamans originated from 6 states prior to us becoming a state in 1819. Among those were Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina. Our own Jasper, Alabama, was named after Sergeant William Jasper, who bravely ran into the open during the battle to hold the Liberty flag. You ain't going to find many men like that today. I'm looking for about 20. I think we get 20 out of 350 million population. I should have put a poll up. Maybe I will. The seeds of Alabama and the resulting roots were planted by our Revolutionary veterans and their children that relocated to Alabama after the war. Might be getting somewhere now. In 2017, I think definitions and meanings of words change in significance from what they meant over 300 years ago. You see, that's what I came across when I scanned this. That's why this article got my attention. So all I just read, I didn't read before. I just scanned through it. And what I just read, that little bit, I read that. And I scanned through this a little bit more. I said, that's a lot more than I want to read, but I like what I'm hearing here. In 2017, I think definitions and meanings of words change significance from what they meant over 300 years ago. You see, that's why I keep going back to Old World English and etymology. That is the dissection. That's the dissection, etymology. I don't know how many of us think of liberty as anything but a synonym of the word freedom, which could be used interchangeably. There is a subtle difference between freedom and liberty, and the distinction is important. I've thought about it frequently and wonder if we still have our liberty. We do not, sir. By definition, freedom is the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. Liberty is the state of being free within society from oppression, restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Freedom can be argued to be a broader concept where I'm not restricted necessarily in my movements. I'm not imprisoned and I'm not enslaved, then in brackets, though I acknowledge a theoretical argument to the contrary that I won't delve into here, and a bracket. But within that freedom, do I have liberty? If liberty is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views, then do I have liberty in my post 9/11 country? My answer is no. Yeah, you didn't have it post and you didn't have it pre. You were born a slave, like the rest of us. My answer is no. And this is the paradox why our state and country is in mortal danger. As long as the mass of people believe that freedom still exists, then they risk becoming tolerant or dismissive of the loss of liberty. That's a very good sentence. That's worth repeating at least once, maybe twice. As long as the mass of people believe that freedom still exists, then they risk becoming tolerant or dismissive of the loss of liberty. But freedom is the protective shell around the M&M, while the liberty is the chocolatey center. Freedom is the outside of the apple, while liberty is the edible parts inside. Freedom is the skin, while liberty is the blood, vessels, brain, organs, and tissue. It is possible to look healthy and to look edible on the outside while rotting away on the inside. We are rotting on the inside, and it is because we've been dismissive or apathetic to our loss of liberty. In many ways, I don't believe any of us noticed because it happened slowly and done in time, done in the name of safety. I don't believe any of us noticed because it's happened slowly and done in the name of safety. The irony, though, is that we've done this to ourselves. We didn't need a foreign invader. Yeah, typical bar attorney, parasite. You're the ones that did this. Yeah, I told you I'd call it out. I find BS in here. It's also got some very good points. Obviously, doesn't have his critical thinking cap on. Or he's just not being honest. It's one or the other. All right. All right. There's some more reading to do here. If you don't mind for a minute. I am so tired. Mentally just exhausted. Physically, I'm having a hard time standing up, folks. I am. They bags under my eyes. They're looking mighty awesome, aren't they? We do what we got to do when we got to do it, right? Man, we do what we got to do when we got to do it, right? I wish we had a society of men like that. We wouldn't be in the position we're in now, would we? If you just knew what an American was, none of this would be necessary. None of it. Not one little bit. Liberty, for clarification, holds the sacred civic duty of personal responsibility. A civilized society is built and maintained on social constructs of good example and teachings, correct principles, with expectation that people govern themselves. The abandonment of this cornerstone principle must be corrected as the first step in taking our liberty back. It involves first setting the example and then teaching with authority. I tell you, own your authority. Own your authority. Own it. The abandonment of this cornerstone principle, abandonment of what? This cornerstone principle must be corrected as the first step in taking our liberty back. It involves first setting the example and then teaching with authority through that example so that individuals within the family, community, state, and country can model and govern themselves. We must live like we deserve liberty, and we are not living that way. That's a fact. Hey, for a bar attorney, this guy's all right. He's just deceiving us about these British agents. Hey, Susan Williams. Oh, don't be sorry. It wasn't your fault. Wi-Fi, glitches. Oh, you missed some good reading. You have to catch this from the beginning. Oh, but I know you will anyways. Okay. We have gotten into some bad habits of taking without giving, deception instead of honesty, of destroying without rebuilding, of fighting instead of loving, hating instead of forgiving, and deferring instead of living. We are not asking what we can do for our country, our state, or our neighbors, and too many of us are just taking because everyone else is doing it. This is the excuse. Too many of our corporations are taking. People in government are taking, and citizens are taking. To top that off, it feels, whether true or not, that other countries and their people coming here are also taking. It's a secular cycle of taking from each other, and it's largely all legal-like, not lawful-like, legal-like. It was Bastate. It was Bastait. What is it? It was Bastate referred to in the law as legal plundering. This behavior on all sides is unsuitable and wrong. Unsuitable and wrong. There will be a point of no return, and we risk collapse unless we stop the legal plundering. Oh, that's very good. There will be a point of no return. And when we collapse, all right, I'll start over again. I'm not a good reader. There will be a point of no return, and we risk collapse unless we stop the legal plundering. At the end of the day, though, the people are a reflection of our leaders, and those leaders are the reflection of the people. Let that sink in. All right, bar attorney, they're not our leaders. They are our servants. Men like me are the leaders. Good God. If we want our liberty back and you want to reserve the rotting that we are experiencing in this country, then we must be our brother's keepers. Is that a typo or did I read that wrong? If we want our liberty back and you want to reverse the rotting that we are experiencing in this country, then we must be our brother's keepers. And in doing so, respect our brother enough to hold high expectations for him, to take responsibility for himself in action, word and deed. Is any of this getting through to anybody? Any of it? Oh, good God. I'm going to put this link to this article in the description. That way you can read it for yourself in case I mispronounced a word, missed a word, or got something wrong. But I think we're getting the context of this here, aren't we, people? People can't improve nor display their abilities within our participatory government and society without living in an environment where liberty exists. We have so many rules and laws now that I argue that our liberty can't exist, or for those who love control and safety will credit the expansion of laws/rules for our brothers' compliance in our society. When in the course of human events has mankind ever accepted control, force, or aggression by other humans as a long-term plan for a successful and free society? Never. Never. How do we take back our liberty? How do we take our liberty back? Well, let's see what this man has to say about it. We do it in a three-pronged approach. We do it where we change ourselves and how we think first. Hey! I like that. Own your authority. Understand who you are. Understand what an American is. Understand you have immunity from arrest. What's arrest? Being stopped. How does anyone get authority to arrest you? Through a warrant. Through what? A grand jury that don't exist. So all these stops are arrests. We stop expecting government to solve our problems. And if you can, and most of us can, then do it. All right, now he's got his head up his behind. So far, belly button glass ain't going to help this man. People, we are the government. What's the definition of assembly? I'm going to tell you. I can find that real quick. Right here. Edit history. Assembly. Deliberative council. Usually legislative or judicial in purpose and power. I'll read that to you again. And again, and again, and again. And I keep reposting it, hoping that it's going to get through that MK Ultra, that short-circuited thing between your ears. View, edit history. Assembly, deliberative council. Deliberative council. I'm going to define those two words. Usually legislative or judicial in purpose and power. All right, back to this article. We stop expecting government to solve our problems, and if you can, and most of us can, then do it. If you can volunteer, then make the time. If you want to strengthen your family, then stop scheduling every waking moment of your child's life. If you see a problem in your community, then organize like-minded citizens to solve the problem instead of expecting bureaucratic managers to do it. If you want to help your fellow man, then be a Samaritan instead of those who walk by with excuses or assume it's someone else's job or cower in fear like a modern man. Oh, women, mommy! Grow up! Get a pair! But none of this works without changing ourselves first. We weren't always like this, and we've allowed ourselves to be changed. I believe change is good if it is good change. Think about this for a minute, and you must answer these questions. Do you trust your neighbors? Do you trust people in your community? Do you trust most people in your state? Do you trust most of the people in your community? Trust them with what, you ask? Do you trust them to live responsibly with less rules and less laws that they would make responsible decisions and restrain themselves? Do you trust that they will begin to participate in this government more, in the education of their children, in the needs of the community, to where we don't need all these bureaucratic managers doing it for us because people are doing it for themselves? Do you believe that our institutions like nonprofits and religious organizations can be trusted to fill voids and gaps where government currently exists? I think you should read those questions again and answer them out loud to yourself, because we used to do all the above without the need for government to do it for us. Why? Because we trusted each other, even strangers, to manage themselves first and live responsibly. Then we trusted that they cared about our community and the safety of our community, that they would act and watch when needed. How many of you could ride your bike all over the place when you were young, allowed to go to the park without an adult, and were free to walk to and from school without a parent? This was America 20 to 30 years ago, and it's because of trust that it is because of trust that is largely doesn't exist. we don't trust each other. And because we don't trust each other, this has triggered the extremes in our political world where we line up on sides, driven primarily by a lack of trust and behavior of the other human beings, specifically on social issues. It becomes a battle of worldviews where trust or lack thereof becomes the weapon that justifies more law, more rules, and more government by both the conservative and liberal ends of the spectrum. And as a result, we lost our liberty. Liberty requires trust in a democratic republic. It is the single most important ingredient. Now, for a bar attorney, this guy's all right. He's still got some problems. So this is where we must work on ourselves first. You must also realize that when other people are answering those same questions I listed above, that you, who probably believes yourself to be responsible and trustworthy, are thinking the same horrific thoughts about you as you about them. Thus, we are our own problem, and it starts with trust and responsible behavior put on constant display and exercised, not deferred. I don't know if I can finish this. I'm going to try. Goodness gracious. No, I can't. I'm going to put the link in the description. I'm going to put the link in the description. And I encourage you to read it. I encourage you to be American, to own your authority. Go to the services page on my website, oralhealthwithcannabis.com. Click on Americans NOL, Americans Notice of Liability. Follow the instructions. Where you see yellow highlight, that's where you're going to make some changes electronically. You're going to back that yellow out, and you're going to type in with a white background what is supposed to be there. If it's your city, village, or town that goes there, then put it there. If it's your state that goes there, then put your state there. If it's your county that goes there, then put your county there. If it's your name that goes there, put your name there. Make sure you get the date right. I went and updated it for the month in the year. So it reads 2022. It reads January. Those are two changes you don't have to make. It's an easy to understand document. You are under penalty of perjury, stating that all the testimony in there is true to the best of your knowledge and belief. You got constitutional provisions in there. They're copied and pasted. You want to verify it? Just look up the Constitution, Bill of Rights, per the state that section came from. Everything else in there is plain English. Should be easy enough for you to understand. Under penalty of perjury, you're putting your John Henry on there, your autograph. So I made that document powerful and simple and easy to understand. And it's for all purposes. Anyone trespassing on you. And I got people telling me I shouldn't do that. I should only write a sheriff's document, serve it on a sheriff. No critical thinking. And the document they propose got no teeth. None. Zip. Nada. Zero. You might as well take some milk and cookies with you. And it's so long and drawn out. Who's going to take the time to verify everything? They're going to put their John Henry on there. Don't trust people blindly. Trust yourself. Study for yourself. Do for yourself. And by God, own your authority. If you put your vehicle into private jet, why not? Oh, it's too simple, Ethan. I know. Way too simple. All right, people, I'm sorry. I just couldn't finish reading that. I don't have it in me right now. I gotta go take care of me for a few minutes. I love you. I do. We're going to be free. We're going to have our liberty back. We are. By God, we're going to have our liberty back. Our freedom. Much love. Much love.